Hey there, fellow Whovians, and welcome to Hailing Frequencies. I'm Stu Jackson, but before we do anything else, we need to go to Red Alert because this video contains spoilers for the Doctor Who episode The Story and the Engine. So if you haven't seen Season 2, Episode 5 yet, pause this video, go watch it, then come back to see if you agree with this week's picks. This week, Doctor Who took us from a humble barbershop to a giant story-fueled spider engine. No, you didn't dream that. We've got epic highs and a couple of hair-raising lows to cover from Season 2, Episode 5, The Story in the Engine. If you love Doctor Who when it gets weird, and oh, it definitely got weird, stick around. We're breaking down all the wild moments from heartfelt storytelling to questionable Doctor decisions. Trust me, this episode spun quite the web, and I've got thoughts. And make sure you stick around after our review as well, because I've got a wild theory about where this season is headed that you won't want to miss. First, though, our synopsis. All right, story time. The Doctor is still trying to get Belinda back home to London 2025, but you know the TARDIS? It has other plans. Instead, our duo lands in Lagos, Nigeria 2019. The Doctor figures why not drop in on an old friend's place. He heads to Omo's Palace, a favourite local barbershop where he's enjoyed many a good tale and trim. Well, mostly the tails. But as he approaches, the street is eerily empty. Missing posters plaster the alley. Omo and some of his regulars have vanished into thin air. Spooky. Inside the barbershop, things get really wibbly wobbly. A mysterious new barber has taken over, and he's not just giving bad haircuts. This sinister barber is trapping men in the shop and forcing them to tell stories while he cuts their hair. And get this, each story actually fuels a monstrous contraption hidden in a pocket dimension. We soon learn it's a story-powered spider engine called Noctis Incnid, lurking in the literal back of a giant spider creature outside space and time. Yep, giant story spider is now an official Doctor Who thing. The barber is basically feeding on these men's life stories to power his engine for some dark purpose he's not exactly sharing. The Doctor quickly gets pulled into the madness. He tries to intervene but ends up in the barber's chair, cape strapped on and all, compelled to spin a tale. Meanwhile, Belinda will later join him in the barbershop, of course, and will cross paths with a mysterious woman named Abina, who seems to know more than she lets on. Abina is the only other person besides the barber who can come and go from the shop freely, which is pretty odd. She helps Belinda and eventually the Doctor, and it turns out Abina has legendary origins, literally. She is revealed to be the daughter of Anansi, the West African spider god of stories and trickery. Suddenly all those spider and storytelling vibes make sense, right? Abina's been helping the barber with his plan, but after a heartfelt plea from Belinda, she switches sides. Working together, the Doctor, Belinda, and Abina concoct a plan to disrupt the engine and free everyone. There's some brilliantly clever stuff here. At one point, Abina even braids a map into the Doctor's hair, a nod to how in real history women braided escape maps to help people flee slavery, which is an amazing reference. The Doctor also turns the tables by telling an ultra-short story of his own life that overloads the spider engine. In the end, their teamwork overheats Noctis Incnid, causing the whole web of stories to unravel. The barber is forced to open the shop's door, releasing Omo and all the prisoners back to Lagos 2019, where they belong. Poof. freedom for everyone, and a barbershop restored. The Doctor even convinces the defeated barber to step away before his exploding engine goes kaboom, giving the bad guy a chance to live another day and maybe learn his lesson. By the time the dust settles, the barbershop is back in one piece and full of grateful, if dizzy, customers. And our heroes can finally breathe again. So, on to our hoorays. Hooray number one, embracing the Doctor's black identity and African storytelling. This episode beautifully leans into the fact that the Doctor is black, something that the show hasn't explored too much so far. Setting the adventure in the heart of Lagos's community culture was a brilliant move. We see the Doctor absolutely in his element, chatting in the marketplace, hugging old friends, and feeling at home. The story itself celebrates African storytelling traditions. From Anansi's legend to folktale style visuals, those moving illustrations on the barbershop window were gorgeous. It's a love letter to the power of oral history. I love that the Doctor's connection with black heritage wasn't just a footnote. It became central to the plot. Little touches like Abina braiding the root to the engine into the Doctor's hair rooted the sci-fi craziness in real African lore and history. It felt respectful, fresh, and it added a whole new layer to Doctor Who's universe. Hooray number two, the Fugitive Doctor cameo. Did you catch that surprise appearance? Joe Martin's Fugitive Doctor made a brief but impactful cameo, and I'm still cheering about it. In a flashback twist, we learn that Abina once crossed paths with the Doctor in a previous incarnation, and it was Joe Martin's Doctor, no less, covertly working for the division at the time. Seeing Joe Martin back in her snazzy coat, even for a moment, was a total geek out moment. It cleverly ties this episode to the broader Doctor Who lore from a couple of series ago. Plus, it dropped a tantalising hint when the Fugitive Doctor quipped that she was busy in a different story that might be finished one day. Wink, wink, more mysteries to solve later. The cameo, though, didn't steal the spotlight or confuse new viewers, but it gave long-time fans a rewarding connection. A big hooray for me for that delightful nod to continuity. So, those were the highlights that had me yelling hooray at the screen. But hold on to your sonic screwdrivers, it wasn't all smooth sailing. In fact, a couple of things had me boo-hooing instead. Yes, it's time for the boo-hoos. Boo-hoo! The parts that made me frown like a jadoon hearing bad karaoke. Let's gripe. Boo-hoo number one, the Doctor ignoring the cries to not open the door. Now, one thing that rubbed me the wrong way was how the Doctor handled the trapsmen's pleas for him not to open the door. Our Doctor, the hero who usually listens to people in peril, seemed oddly dismissive here. He opens the door anyway and puts everyone's life at risk as a result. For me, it felt off. It's out of character for someone who usually can't help but take people seriously. I get that the story had to show what was outside the shop, but come on. The Doctor turning a deaf ear, even briefly, had me yelling at the screen, "That's not you, Doctor." Boo-hoo number two. Two neat endings for the barber and Abina. After all the fantastic build-up, the resolution for our villain and our mysterious ally felt a bit too tidy. The barber goes from a story-sucking baddie to essentially getting a free pass in the end. The engine blows, he opens the door, and next thing you know, Omo's inviting him to take over the barbershop, and everyone just forgives him. Wait, what? Similarly, Abina's big grudge, she's basically devoted her life to helping the barber after feeling betrayed by the Doctor, is resolved with this quick change of heart. She's suddenly cool with the Doctor despite all the suffering he's caused her, simply because the episode's ending soon and we've all got to be friends. It was all tied up with a nice shiny bow within seconds, and Abina lets go of her anger in a snap. For an episode about stories, it felt like a rushed fairy tale. I'd have liked a little more emotional weight or consequence here. Give us some fallout. Instead, it was like, all right, lesson learned, group hug, bye. A smidge unsatisfying after such an intense setup. All told, though, the story and the engine was a wild ride that truly pushed Doctor Who into new territory. It blended sci-fi with rich cultural lore. It had some of the most original ideas we've seen in a while. I mean, story-powered spider engine, who even thinks of that? I mean, Russell T Davies, obviously, but you get what I mean. Even though a couple of character moments did leave me scratching my head, I had a blast watching it. It definitely has me excited for what's coming next. If this season keeps embracing bold storytelling like this, we're in for a treat. And now, as promised, my wild and crazy theory. So, what is my theory for this overarching narrative this season? In essence, Mrs. Flood, powerful pantheon entity, has been orchestrating a grand plot to unravel reality by exploiting the power of stories. Each episode's events will have weakened the walls between fiction and reality or sown chaos in the timeline, preparing for a final assault. Wishworld will likely see Mrs. Flood and any fellow Pantheon allies she's freed, perhaps Conrad too as a pawn, pull the Doctor and companions into a fabricated story world where they will have the home advantage. She may offer temptations like wishes or resurrected loved ones. I mean, imagine Ruby Sunday being confronted with the ghost of someone from her past, or Belinda offered a wish to undo a personal tragedy. All this in order to distract or trap the heroes in fantasy. This could be akin to the trickster's modus operandi on the Sarah Jane adventures. Giving people what they desperately want, but at the cost of unleashing chaos. The Doctor and team will have to see through the illusion and remain true to reality, essentially choosing truth over comforting fiction. Red pill, blue pill. Finally, the reality war will be the end game where Mrs. Flood likely drops all pretense. We anticipate a confrontation on multiple levels. Physical, perhaps the Earth or universe in peril from some reality-breaking device or ritual. And metaphysical. The Doctor might have to engage in a battle of wits and words, perhaps literally storytelling a solution to reassert reality's narrative. The concept of invoking rules of engagement with these gods has been hinted, and we've seen how the Doctor can sometimes enforce ancient rules when dealing with the Pantheon. One could imagine the Doctor invoking a storytelling challenge, a bit like how he defeated the gods of Ragnarok in the Seventh Doctor era by performing a final trick they couldn't contain, or how Scheherazade survived by telling tales. It would be fitting if the Doctor defeats Mrs. Flood through the very thing she seeks to pervert, the strength of a good story. Perhaps humanity's collective imagination, when turned to hope instead of fear, will undo the Pantheon's power. The pieces are all there. Belinda's fierce autonomy, Ruby's unwavering courage, and the legacy of unit and companions. The light of the Doctor's regeneration energy. All this could come together as facets of the story of the Doctor. A story stronger than any one villain. In short, Expect the final 2 episodes to turn into a meta-fictional showdown where the Doctor must protect the integrity of reality's narrative. Now, Russell T Davies himself teased that she, Mrs. Flood, kind of unveiled herself at the end of the last series, saying, "I'm going to bring absolute terror, so the gloves are off." We're about to see just what absolute terror in a Doctor Who context means. Likely a universe on the brink of unravelling into nightmare and nonsense. In Doctor Who, names are never accidental. Mrs. Flood is almost certainly an alias. Her true name is yet unrevealed. However, it likely hints at her nature. A flood can mean a cataclysmic deluge, evoking images of ancient world-ending floods, Noah's Ark, that sort of thing, which aligns with her stated goal of bringing terror and storming heaven. Intriguingly, Russell T Davies's pantheon of discord are often named for disasters or forces of nature. We've seen gods of specific concept, light, music, games, nightmares, and we've noticed mentions of disasters and death as concepts among the pantheon. A being themed around a flood would nicely represent catastrophic disaster. Perhaps even the idea of wiping the slate clean, much like the Great Flood myth resets the world, Mrs. Flood might seek to drown the universe in chaos and start anew. Now, it hasn't escaped some fans that Flood could also connect to the villainous waterborne virus, the Flood, from the 10th Doctor's episode The Waters of Mars. But that was a mindless pathogen, whereas Mrs. Flood is clearly intelligent and witty. More likely, Flood is metaphorical. She plans to flood the world with stories gone wrong, a flood of chaos, or she sees herself as an unstoppable force of nature. There's even possibly a cheeky meta aspect. Bad Wolf, an omnipresent phrase in Series 1 onwards, has now given way to Bad Flood. Both Wolf and Flood are destructive forces in fairy tales. Big Bad Wolf, Great Flood, you get the idea. Could Russell T Davies be deliberately echoing his own Bad Wolf arc with a new twist? Possibly. What's certain, though, is that Mrs. Flood's identity will pay off this season's story motif. If she reveals her true form name, whatever, in the reality war, expect something appropriately grandiose. She could be an existing mythic figure in the Who universe or a new creation embodying narrative chaos. The Pantheon of Discord's roster, when you look at extended media, includes entities named Reprobate, Malice, Mischief, Misery, Incenser, Dread, Doubt, and so on. None of those scream Flood, but one stands out: Gods of the Great Catastrophe, an apocalyptic trio mentioned in spin-off lore. Mrs. Flood could turn out to be a personification of catastrophe or chaos itself under a quaint name. Given her flair, she might even dub herself the storyteller or author of all tears, something poetic to match her dramatic announcements. In summary, Mrs. Flood is best understood as the season's personification of the story theme. She operates like a malignant narrator, guiding and twisting the plot from within. Her appearances often come at transitions or epilogues of episodes. Just when you think the story is over, she steps in to add a new chapter, like freeing Conrad at the end of Lucky Day, or delivering a final monologue in Ruby Road. This mirrors how an author or showrunner might tease the next act. It's as if she's attempting to author the Doctor's fate. Tellingly, when the Doctor first meets her, without realizing who she is, he notes her name Flood and later remarks that he first heard about Belinda from Conrad, due to Mrs. Flood's interference. She has been one step ahead, nudging Belinda into the TARDIS team from the start. Remember, she encouraged Ruby to go off with the Doctor as well. All of this suggests that Mrs. Flood wants key players in place for her endgame. Belinda with the Doctor, Ruby possibly returning, Conrad unleashed, unit involved, Kate Stewart and company have appeared too in Lucky Day. She's setting the stage for the ultimate story, the downfall or triumph of the Doctor. So what do you think of this episode and of my theories as to what is coming? Let me know in the comments. Did the spider engine give you nightmares? Or do you love the whole folklore storytelling angle? Let's talk about it. Now, if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Hailing Frequencies for more Doctor Who reviews and reactions. We've got plenty more adventures in the TARDIS ahead of us. And I'll be back next week to tackle the next episode. Can't wait to see what's in store. Until then, stay curious, keep those hailing frequencies open, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!